Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, welcome to This is a Revolution, your weekly podcast about all things RevPro. I'm George. I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Dave the Mark. How are you doing, buddy?
Yeah, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Yeah, glad it's the end of the work week for me today. So, I'm on that come down. Sorry, I didn't hit. I was chatting away.
Don't know where the time's gone this week. It's just flown.
No, mate, I don't either. And I've done a 3-day work week, and normally those are the weeks where it feels like it's been a long week somehow. But no, this week is just gone, absolutely gone. It's be Christmas before you know it, mate.
Mate, genuinely, it feels like I went to work on Monday.
Yeah,
I can't tell you where the time's gone.
yeah.
It's like super busy time at work for me because it's so it's like exams, but we do like mocks for year 9, 10, and 11 at the same time.
Okay.
Assessments for year 7 and 8. But we have like this really nice window to get them all marked and get them all like assessed and do all that crap. But we're just so keen to do it quickly, like just from our own personal perspectives. We've got until the 4th of December to have everything tied up, and everyone's finished it already.
Nice.
But the problem is, then it's like, oh, let's talk about set changes and stuff like that, and that's another thing that's all through me as well. So it's like, it's just loads of admin stuff as well as the teaching, and you've got like the fate of these like 1,500 kids in your hand who are like, I want to move down the set. I don't want to move down the set. Oh no, I didn't do very well. What's my mum gonna say? And I'm exciting, and it's roller coaster, mate.
I can imagine. Proper responsible job.
Mate, I've never done anything else, and I never will. I will literally be in the classroom until the day I retire. I don't ever want to be a teacher. I don't ever want to be in a position where I don't get to teach kids maths. I want to teach kids maths every day until the day I retire. Maybe one day I might give myself a day off a week and go to 4 days a week instead of 5 days.
Oh, treat yourself there.
I won't do it if it means I have to give up my head of maths because I like being my own boss.
Fair play, mate. Fair play. It's really funny because, like, when I first started getting to know you, I was like, I couldn't imagine this guy as a teacher. I just couldn't. Like, some people in some jobs, and then I think for me it was the night we were in Cardiff for AEW, and I just saw the way you were herding people around, and I was like, right,
yeah, oh, mate.
I get it. I get it completely now.
It's funny, when we were at the 229 last month. One of the young lads who is like a RevPro regular and is at all the London shows, he's in year 11 at school, and him and his mum come to the wrestling with you want to get on this song, you want to do this, I'll send you some links, I'll send you some tips. I'm always a message away. You get I'll break it down for you, like just mate.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. Nice.
I just like helping people. That's what it is. I like helping people.
I get that.
And this is one thing that I'm good enough at helping people get good at. So yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, fair play. I did the thing that most people do and fall into financial services somehow. Still don't know how I managed it. And then I was like, yeah, I'll do this job for a year or two, and literally 20 years into my career in financial services now, and it's one of those things I always go, as far as a day job goes, it's all right. I'm happy with it. It pays for me to go to wrestling shows, pays to me to go to gigs and stuff like that, have nice holidays, so can't complain too much. But
literally, my first day of year 7, I remember watching a maths teacher and a French teacher. And the maths teacher I thought was really good, and the French teacher I thought was really shit. And I remember sitting there thinking, why is one of them so much better than the other? Why do I like this one so much more than that one? What makes a good teacher then? And from that day onwards, it was just like, I want to be a teacher. I thought I was going to be an English teacher. Then I became a history teacher. Then I've been a geography teacher and a 2, 3.
God.
I've taught I think I've taught about 10 different subjects at some point, because I worked in a middle school where they're like age 9 to 13. If you don't, I could teach. So I was a history specialist, and I could have taught every child at that school history and still had half of the week free to do other stuff.
Wow.
So you have to teach 2 subjects. So I always taught history with something on the side, and then the side hustle became the main hustle, because I ended up teaching maths and loved it so much.
Oh, nice.
And then taught it up to GCSE, and now I've got a team of 14 people teaching it that I manage.
Amazing stuff, mate. Amazing stuff. Well, I love that. It's genuinely so wholesome. And then
wholesome content.
And then people get to know you then, Dave, as well, and then be like, this guy's a teacher. Yeah. Well, you know what? What a nice way to segue from teacher to teaching people what has happened. The segue doesn't work, but we are going to talk about what happened this weekend, just gone at the Trios Weekender. I was really surprised by it in a good way. So I know I've spoke about a lot how trios aren't for me. I don't have the FOMO of not being there, okay? But I still thought if I'd gone, I'd have had a great time. And I'll be honest, it's probably the FOMO is probably because I didn't spend. The lack of FOMO is more about like it being in Coventry and like being a decent distance, and what is there to do in Coventry if I stay overnight, like that sort of thing. Like so, I thought it was a really great weekender.
I thought it was an absolute I go into everything RevPro related really excited. Like, I called myself Dave the Mark so that I didn't have to use my surname on socials, and I didn't want all the kids to find my socials. I'm massively RevPro Mark because I just love everything that they do. So I went into it thinking it was going to be class. I didn't realise that it was going to be as good as it was. I didn't realise how much other people would think it was as good as I thought it was. You know, they talk about, like loads of wrestlers talk about how rewarding it is when you start a match with a really dead quiet crowd and you draw them into it. Like, RevPro did that over 2 days. If you think the very first match that was on Saturday had Lio Rush and Leon Slater. You got Lio Rush, Leon Slater, then you got David Francisco and Damiel. And I have never heard quieter wrestling crowd. Like well-known wrestlers, like Lio Rush in independent wrestling fandom is a whole he's a name that everybody knows, right? He is WWE, AEW, New Japan, like he's wrestled for everybody. So whatever your wider knowledge of wrestling is,
yeah,
that match was played to crickets. It was so quiet. It was like bizarre. Yet by the end of the first night, the crowd was really loud. On the second night, I thought the crowd was louder. I think there were some more regulars, and maybe people just felt more comfortable on the second night.
Yeah.
There were lots of people that were there both days. I saw loads of the same faces. But by the end of the second night, it was like absolutely buzzing and electric. And genuinely, I think that Sunday was like a show of the year contender. It was like that. Remember the post Revolution Rumble Southampton show?
Yeah.
They only announced, I think, 5 matches for the card or 6 matches for the card. You knew Josh Alexander and JJ Gavin. You knew that was main eventing. And then there was like, who's this Mike DiVecchio fella? Let's see what he's about. So let's see what he's about. You got the surprise Gabe Kidd match. You got the surprise Go Oku angle.
Yeah.
We talked about it feeling like a Raw after WrestleMania.
It was, yeah.
That's a bit like what this Sunday was.
Nice.
I imagine, I've never been to one. I imagine it was quite similar to what Progress's unboxing show at Christmas is. where they unannounced the card, you get a surprise. You know it's going to be really good, and there's often some really fun stuff. That's what this was. It also still had, you knew that you were getting the trios tournament final.
Yeah.
And you knew the semi-finals. So you knew half. But the other stuff was so much fun.
That's actually a really good way of comparing, actually, because I went to the Progress unboxing last Christmas. I went and did that one, and I was kind of like, so I was like, do I want to go because I don't know the matches, and will I find that fun? And I think at that point I was just on such a wrestling buzz, and I was like, well, I got Christmas off, so what's the worst that can happen? Go and treat myself to a day at the wrestling. I thought it was a perfectly fine show, like perfectly fun. Enjoyed myself for the money I paid, but actually, what you just said there is you kind of got a bit of that with a bit of knowing these are the ones you're definitely going to see, and I quite like that approach. I really like how you touched on the crowd there as well, because I was actually going to ask you that question, because on camera it came across as dead. I was like, oh. And I genuinely thought that this was more of a case of, like, sometimes the venues don't get mic'd up really well, like, compared to others because of being new venues and maybe, or newer venues and maybe just trying to find that balance, right? You get that happen. But this felt like just eerily quiet. I was like, oh, this is a bit odd. And then we noticed it on the second day also. I was like, well, it must have been just a crowd participation thing the first day, because unless they've gone and like, we know this would come across as quiet, we're going to redo it all. But yeah, it did come across really quiet, which, like you said, is a bit of an odd one given some of the names in there, but good to see the crowd kind of grow into the weekend as it went on.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I came away from the weekend thinking to myself that like RevPro can make a massive success out of Coventry. As like on previous times that I've been, so I've been to all the Coventry shows so far. On previous times when I've come away, I've kind of thought to myself of, that's going to take a long time, but it should get there. Whereas this time I came away thinking, like, I reckon they could get there much sooner than I first thought.
Nice.
I think there's loads of people there that I've not seen at other RevPro shows before. I got to talk to a few people and got to meet lots of new RevPro fans, which is always nice. And that's like, it gives you a bit of an indication of being like, okay, there's a bit like there's a potential for a new market of fans here. Like, people don't go to anywhere else. It's quite a long way from Coventry to London. It's quite a long way from Coventry to Sheffield. So, you're not going to get a lot of crossover except for those fans. And yeah, I just feel like it was like the level of what was delivered at the weekend. How good those matches were, the high stakes, it was a bit of everything for everybody. Yeah. I don't think RevPro ever delivered a show which has made me feel as wide a variety of emotions as that one did. We'll come to it, I know, but that Revolution tag gauntlet on the Sunday, myself laughing, like genuinely, like laughing aloud, like embarrassingly so. The main event of both nights, but especially the second night, because of the how serious the ramifications were, I was like losing my voice shouting so much in it. The debuts, like Leon Cage and Nino Bryant especially, were just incredible. So you like had that side of it. The unexpected, like I got to watch Zachary Wentz versus Romex. Like, that's a York Hall match. That's a York Hall match with a big match graphic. That's the sort of match that I kind of clamour for, which got it as a surprise. Like, it was, I think you balanced it beautifully. There was something for everybody. You had a match that went a minute and a half long that caught everybody by surprise. They played with some brilliant, wrestling tropes and rules of matches beautifully. Yeah, I just thought I'd make, honestly, a triumph. Just overall massive triumph.
Yeah, well, let's kick off with the tournament proper first, shall we? And obviously, we know who won. Congratulations to CPF. I think when this was first announced, we said they've got to be a lock for it, right? Like that was our first thought. They've got to be a lock for it. And I think when we were looking at it last week on the preview, pretty much the final we had, I think it was between the two of us, we'd either worked out CPF versus Viva España or potentially CPF versus Spectral Envoy in there as well. That was the other unknown. And I know when I predicted the matches, all of the first round matches I predicted, I'd got correct because I'd written off Spectral, and that was the only one I didn't get was the Spectral Envoy one because I was like, oh, they're just here to, and you were like, oh, actually no. And then so when they got the win, I was like, oh, maybe they could make it as well. And I thought that was really interesting. No, that's not to say that I found it completely predictable because sometimes a bit of predictability in wrestling's cool, right? Like it's nice to have a little bit of that. But again, as RevPro do, they don't do it in a way that makes you feel like, oh, I know who's winning here. Like they actually delivered it in a really good way that a couple of times like, oh no, they're gonna win. Like as we were going through the matches, there was a couple of times that the people who lost, I thought, no, they're gonna pick it up here. But then how that played into the second night with other matches was really cool. So remind me, Dave, we just spoke about this a minute ago, but I'm struggling with my lack of cage match match order for the night. The first match.
So the first one was Leon Slater, and then the Portuguese guys of Santos, Francisco and Damião.
Oh, you've been in a room with Andy Quilden too much. The Portuguese guys. I don't. Have you watched it back on stream where he refers to them as he tries to say the name? He goes Heroes Domar. He went. I think it means heroes, and then he just starts calling them the Portugueses.
Yeah, does he call them the Portugueses?
The Portugueses the whole way through the tournament calls them that.
I called them the Portugueses in the 10 takeaways this week. Just because I was like, how is this not a thing? Yeah. I know that like there's a lot of love for the Portugals, but yeah, I was like the Portugueses. I quite like this. Genuinely, I couldn't predict any of the matches. What I loved about it was I couldn't predict any of the matches. I didn't know who I thought would win. I didn't know who I thought should win. And I didn't even know who I wanted to win. Because in my head, I was like, well, I need to cheer for Sunshine Machine because I'm diehard, Shah and Sunshine Machine, love the tits off the lads. And then you've got but I also in terms of wanting a trio to win it, I was like, I really want CPF to win it.
Yeah.
I really want Viva España to win it. And I was like, okay, whoever gets to the final out of those three teams, surely one of those three teams will get to the final. And then you end up with two of them.
Yeah.
What I also loved was talking to the people that I sat around. So I was a bit more chatty with people on the Sunday than I was the Saturday. Simply because I had somebody that I knew in front of me, somebody that I knew behind me, and because I was kept turning around to talk to the two, we ended up making a circle of people talking to each other. Everybody predicted a different winner.
Wow.
So we had a semi-final stage. I went with one team. The guy in front of me went for a different team. The guy next to him went for a different team. The guy behind me went for a different team, and it was just completely unpredictable. My takeaways from that first match are how much I want to see Golden Boy Santos versus Lio Rush.
Oh, it'd be so good, wouldn't it?
That's a singles match that I like. If you're Andy Quilden, right? I know that he can't book everything because he's only got so many shows and he's got stories. But he must have these moments where he doesn't realise what he's done until Santos delivers Leon Rush that lariat. And you're like, oh, I've touched upon something here. Wouldn't it be fun to see those two wrestle? So yeah, I really liked that. I also thought the right team won. I think that Harris Damar benefited in the long run a lot more from a high-profile victory than Leo, Leon, and Cameron. I didn't know if they were going to lean into the Leon Slater heel stuff from his Zazaya conflict, but they didn't. And I'm cool with that because I always say this, like RevPro don't have heels and faces. They have three-dimensional characters, which in my eyes is what wrestling should all be about. Like, I think of all of the films and TV shows, all the drama I enjoy watching, there's good and bad in everybody. Decisions that the characters make that are good, there's decisions that they make that are bad. Good people get frustrated, good people get pissed off, bad people show some remorse, bad people change. And you don't need a heel turn and a face turn. You can just have people start to lean one way or the other. And every now and then, a good heel turn, a good face turn is excellent. But for my take on wrestling, I'm very much of that like Cody Rhodes view where he said a few years ago, the days of good guys and bad guys in wrestling are gone. And I very like that spoke to me, which is ironic because now he's wrestling in WWE where they have very clear dynamics between the good and the bad guy.
And was also the guy that was very clearly said all this as well to a degree because he didn't want to be the bad guy. But yeah,
he absolutely did not refuse to turn heel no matter how much he got booed. Yeah, like for me, that's it. And Leon had no reason to be an arsehole on Saturday. So why be an arsehole? Like, you know, he's got nothing to do with Cameron Kai and Leon Slater. So, sorry. So, yeah, that one, I really enjoyed that. The second match was, I love how they really, they went kind of balls to the wall with Coventry. I'm not the only person that's noticed how quiet it has been talked about a lot amongst RevPro fans. It's been talked about. I've literally had conversations with wrestlers about the atmosphere of it. You know that it's been noticed. So they went all out by putting Leon on first. They also went with a clear heel face dynamic first. Because I think we've spoken about it in the past, where maybe in the commentary shows they would have benefited more by having a clear and good guy versus a clear and bad guy. At least for the match, even if the wrestlers are still three-dimensional, but it's really obvious who you want to cheer for.
Of course, yeah.
So to follow that up with Viva Espana, again, Zazania just he is the most charismatic just lifts a room the second he literally jumps and bounces around into it. With those guys, who did they face? They
were
later.
It was Shawshank Machine.
Shawshank Machine, thank you. Yeah, and again, you know, Shawshank Machine. Shaw is an expert at manipulating the crowd to get a response. TK and Mambo, probably two of the most popular wrestlers anywhere, and they got that TK and Mambo got loud reactions in the rush, and that's significant. But also at this point, the Coventry crowd are starting to warm up. They're starting to warm into it. And that's right. There's loads of us that go to wrestling matches that are a bit socially awkward and or have a bit of social anxiety, or just take moments to warm up. I always know, and any wrestlers that I take photos of and I send them photos, the first match of a show, my photos are much shitter than the second, third, fourth match. It's like getting into like your routine.
Of course, yeah.
So that was a really bold decision. I think it worked because by the time that match ended, we had the crowd kind of there. Again, I think I liked the idea of Shaw winning and chasing this, white wing. I don't think that was the best story that they could tell. I think an established British trio in CPF winning was the best card.
Yeah.
I mean, stars out there for this weekend. But Zazaya is class. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, of course.
There'll be loads of people know who he is, but wouldn't know who Joey and Sito are, because you think like there's different levels to your fandom, right? There's the level of fan who is watching RevPro on Demand's live stream for a show that they're running in another country is probably, that's like a smaller minority of the thousands of people a year that go to RevPro shows. If you think that, let's say there's 5,000 people in the country at some point in a year that go to a RevPro show, it's probably only less than 10% of that. Maybe only like 2 or 3% of that people who actually sat and watched the Barcelona live stream to see Barcelona Blacklist versus Grizzled Young Vets. But I thought they were really impressive. I thought that they lived up. They showed that that match wasn't, like a one-off banger. There's more to it. They had really good chemistry with Zazaya. I liked how they had a team dynamic. Zazaya was definitely the captain in every sense.
Mm-hmm.
And he drove them. And in terms of Shah and TK and Mambo, I really like the fact that they didn't end it with, the team falling apart. Because actually, I really like. I put something out the other day, bro. I was just like, how does Shah Samuels maintain his relevance and prominence in everything that he does to make me so invested?
Yeah.
I still am desperate to see him and Josh James as a tag team.
Yeah.
And this new age revolutionists. But in the space of like a weekend, I fell in love with him and TK Mambo.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see Starshine Machine. I'd love to see that again.
Yeah.
Him and Harry Winston are my new favourite tag team.
Yeah.
You can't have Shaw wrestle 3 matches every show because you want one with TK and Mambo, one with Joshua James, and one with Harry Milligan. But he is just so bloody good at everything that he does, and it's so much fun. Everything that he does is so much fun. So I thought that was a really, really good one.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely. Just to kind of add on those matches as well, the bits I loved right at the beginning, and you probably wouldn't have caught this if you haven't rewatched it back. Joey Torres getting a high five, hand slap from Zoya, and then walks away, going, because we've all been there, right? We've all experienced that. What I really loved about the match was I loved how they told stories and set up a few different matches, right? So the stuff with Shah, I said to you last time, I said I really wanted them to lose that first match because I think that does more for Shah's journey, which, like I said to you, how it looked and how I was saying to you, I was going for York Hall, those two against Shah and Josh James against each other, and then that kind of like furthered me on that a little bit. Going, oh, this plays into that a bit more. And I felt the whole weekend did really well at doing this with Shah. Like, not like you said, having a heel turn, but certainly seemingly embracing a more edgier side, right? Because Shah has been, yeah, exactly. Because he has been just been this happy-go-lucky guy, oi oi, swing of the scarf, right? And like you said, all this stuff I've been watching, like you've seen the edge coming back into him a bit more. And I find it really interesting, his character. I loved that it was Barcelona Blacklist that pinned Sunshine Machine as well, because that now sets up a match there as well. So it's like
it was TK that took the pin, not Chuck.
Yeah.
Because, for a lot of the will they break up or won't they break up was premised around Chuck.
Of course, yeah.
Presented as the weaker link, and here it's TK that took the pin. I like
that. Yeah.
I've got my lovely little plan in my head of exactly what I feel like they should do here. TK and Mambo are away now in the US. We're recording this on Thursday, and they're literally flying right now. Transatlantic at the moment. I have been told by fans who are more up to date with their dates of where these wrestlers are around the world than I am, they're not going to be back in time for the 229 or the Southampton show. but they'll be back for Sheffield and Uprising. So for me, there's not a lot of time to build a Sunshine Machine feud for Uprising. What you absolutely can do, what I'm desperate to see them do, is Barcelona Blacklist versus Sunshine Machine. Get the match graphic up now for Sheffield. Titles. You know, you get it on the Instagram page, you get it on Twitter, you get it as like a pinned post. Everyone can see it. That's a big match with Sheffield. Buy your tickets now. You're going to see a tag team title shot. Then you put out the Uprising graphic of Barcelona Blacklist and Sunshine Machine, the winner of versus Joshua and Connors. Joshua at the so what we'll talk about later is the fact that he left the weekend by holding up 2 tag belts and having decked TK and Mambo, and he made it really clear in his promo after him and Mills are coming for the tag titles. What I like is they're coming for the belts and not coming for TK and Mambo. It's not it's about gold.
Yeah.
So they don't care if they get TK and Mambo or the Blacklist.
Yeah.
In which case it's perfect to Blacklist first because they've got simple victory, and the winner face Mills and Santos. Mills and
Joshua,
because they want the belts, and you can do that Uprising. You get 2 big tag title matches without there being a need for like a big build in between.
Interesting.
And we could have Joshua and Connor Mills. You know, we could have them versus a couple of the teams that we saw across the weekend in Southampton and the 229. Yeah. I know a lot of people that would be delighted to see Joshua and Mills versus the Bryants in the 229, and then Joshua and Mills versus Shane Hooker and Leon Cage in Southampton.
Yeah.
And both teams that don't lose anything by getting beaten by these guys.
No, of course.
Joshua and Connor Mills get a couple of wins to show their credibility as a tag team before their title match.
Interesting. I never even considered that. So where my mind went this weekend, especially with that moment, was a lot of what was happening in the matches, even though it was a trios weekend, seemed to be setting up tag teams for things. I left that weekend, especially with that moment you just mentioned, I left out thinking early part of the year, tag league is coming. I know tag league's traditionally more middle to anniversary, so that was where I left thinking that. But what you just said is absolutely plausible and would be a great match for your call as well. Like, it'd be a great way to kind of see out the end of the year with these two going for the titles and elevates them as well.
So from doing my this week, nearly finished a full year of putting together all these playlists, watch lists of matches, you really start to recognise dates and the months of the year where RevPro are busy and the months of the year where they're quiet. Because you start, what I do is I go and look at, okay, so what matches were this week in 2023 all the way back to 2012. And you'll notice that certain events run certain times of the year every year. Well, the J Cup's moved. That's gone from being a summer event to an autumn event. One year there was 2 Queen runs in the same year, one at the start of the year, one at the end of the year. And then for the last 2 years, there haven't been a Queen of the Ring. The tag leagues kind of moved around a little bit. And I think it is part of being an independent company, right? Where things evolve, where it's a case of, you know, it needs to fit in where it's convenient. Which again, I also really like, because I hated it being a WWE fan. I hate when things start to become really predictable, where it's like, well, there's a pay-per-view called Hell in a Cell. I know that it's in June, so these matches, one of these matches is going to lead to a Hell in a Cell match, right? Because it has to. And you're like, well, we're in War Game season now, Survivor Series season, so you know these are going to happen because of that. I quite like a flexibility in the schedule because it makes things feel like, we've got a really good time right now. Let's do the tag league as opposed to it's November, we do the tag league. So I'm game for it. I'm absolutely game for it. Robbie, JJ, and Zachary Wentz versus the Spectral Envoy. I fucking loved this, and it makes me so happy because Robbie was doing merch before the show, and he's always popular. So I don't like to disturb it because I don't want to the idea that because someone's having a chat with me because I've gone to be a mark, I'm not buying their merch. I'm stopping somebody else from buying the merch and then.
Of course, yeah.
I tend to just float around. I like to see what's going on. I like watching people. I like watching interactions. I've spent 85 quid on merch this weekend, so I do like merch as well. This time, I like t-shirts. Robbie was sending 8x10s. But I had it in my head. I was like, when he's not busy, I'm going to go on Too Sweet Robbie X because that's going to be like Too Sweet Robbie.
Yeah.
It made me laugh because the minute he turned in this match, I thought, well, that was my chance to get Too Sweet. I can't see him doing it very much anymore because Robbie X, we are definitely leaning into the fact that he's not just Bullet Club, but he is.
Yeah.
You know, he is not. This is a different side of what we've seen before. For anyone who hasn't seen it, it was a really fun match. It played beautifully between drama and comedy because there was some friendly fire between Robbie and Zachary and JJ, and they lost their shit. And it was, to be fair, like Robbie's completely justified. They pinned him in the corner and they started chopping him as if to be like, you keep chopping us, we're now chopping you. And they kind of settled their differences. And then they went after Spectral Envoy. They had Spectral Envoy B. JJ hit his cutter, and Robbie was going to do the spirals off the top, and he just turned around and was like, nah, see you later, boys. And then I love the fact that he just went out and tweeted, not my trio. And that was that. He was done. So JJ and Zachary booked a handicap match. They lost to Spectral Envoy, and we got Zachary versus Robbie X on Sunday in a singles match, which is one of those matches where it's like, what's the best possible singles combination we could get here this weekend? That was my number one I was desperate for.
Yeah.
Spectral Envoy were class.
Yeah, really good.
I didn't know a ton about them beforehand, but like their entrance, their in-ring, their chemistry, everything about it was really, really good. And I'd love to see those guys again. Like, I always think if you see somebody for the first time and you go away thinking, I'd love to watch them wrestle again, they've done well.
Great sign, right?
If you go away thinking, yeah, they're all right, and then you can't remember them wrestling, you know, it's like if I start firing out names from people that wrestled for us last year, you will get people being like, who? I don't remember him.
Yeah, of course.
But then there'll be people being like, oh yeah, I liked him. I hope he comes back. But yeah, these guys, I'd definitely love to see back. And I love the whole story they told. Yeah. It was odd that they went to break there, though. That's the only thing.
Yeah, because it was funny because I saw some of this, and I was cooking dinner because the time it went on, and I was expecting it to be like all of the first round matches and then break, and then the singles matches afterwards. So yeah, I felt it was a bit of an odd choice for break.
I don't know if they were. I don't know. I'm just speculating. I don't know if it was manipulated slightly by knowing that they wanted CPF and the Bryants to headline and wrestlers wrestling other places that weekend.
Could possibly be.
Many people did double duty, but I know that as soon as Robbie and Zach Wentz finished, they left.
Got you.
They left in their gear with their suitcases straight towards Hampton for Burning Heart. So, don't know if other people were in a similar position or what, but yeah, a small thing, but it was just like, oh, okay, we're going to break. I wasn't expecting that. The second half, I think, the whole energy of the room stepped up. I'll tell you what. Actually, we said we'd kind of go tournament, and then
Yeah, we did actually, didn't we? Yeah.
it probably makes sense to go day by day because
So
Mercedes versus Chantel Jordan opened the second half, and that was a really, really good match.
yeah.
A really good match too. It was probably, I think it was my favourite Mercedes Blaze match that I've seen. But what I love is what I had as my favourite Mercedes Blaze match before this one was her last match with Chantel Jordan.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Really enjoyed that. Like they've got really good chemistry together. And do you know what? Mercedes, I don't think she gets the credit she deserves for how good she is in the ring because she's so good at everything else with wrestling.
Yeah.
So you can be like, oh yeah, she's a really good talker. She's a really good heater. She's got the character work nailed. And you're like, yeah, but even if you took all of that away from her, she's a top level wrestler as well. Like everything she does looks so good and so violent and vicious.
And that's it, right? Especially in like independent wrestling, especially. I remember back in the day that you're either like a great wrestler or you're an entertainer, right? And I think that some of that still hangs over a bit. And actually, I see that like it's cyclical. Like we got to a stage where this hybrid of wrestling and entertainment was in for a while. That was the in thing, even in main roster WWE with your CM Punk, your Daniel Bryans, your Seth Rollins, and all of that. And I think we're kind of going with the way there's some toxicity in wrestling about what is a good wrestler. It's like, no, the entertainment style almost feels like it's. We saw it with MJF for a while, right? People wouldn't talk about how good the guy actually is in the ring because for a lot of people, he was a top level entertainer, could definitely hang with those kind of conversations. So, yeah, I see your point. I agree with like how everyone says looks violent, and that's what I like. With the Cutthroat Collective, like that, literally that name, you don't want anyone to not seem like they're a violent, scary individual. Like you've got to be able to carry it. So yeah, when they're by themselves, they've got to carry that same level of fear as if they're not by themselves and they're all grouped together. So, yeah, I thought this was really fun. I'm really enjoying Chantel Jordan, in RevPro as well. I think she's doing great, and I think she's definitely cementing herself, place for herself on the roster.
Yeah, and what I like about the rest of the card was, but something I really like about New Japan is how they pace their shows. And it literally, Royal Quest is a little bit different. Royal Quest has got a bit of a hybrid between a New Japan booked show and a RevPro booked show, and it's just kind of like a bit of a celebration of New Japan as opposed to like a typical New Japan card. And ignore the all the multi-man matches and that like that. Some people they like it, some people they don't. But in terms of like the importance of the matches gets more and more with each match as you get higher up the card. And generally, if you look at how long the matches last, they keep increasing. So by the time the main event lasts 25 minutes, you don't realise that every match before it has kind of prepared you for that.
Yeah.
Like stamina a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's not that this card had the most prominent matches at the top in terms of like most serious in terms of the competition. So
Yeah.
top because they all had high stakes. And it's not that the matches at the top of the card were the longest, but for me, without a shadow of a doubt, the best three matches of the night were the last three matches.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think that they got. I can split hairs between which one I liked the most, but I feel like they appealed to different people for different reasons, and therefore lots of people that I think most people would say the main event was their favourite match of the night.
Yeah,
and that's probably been pitched quite well because for the majority of fans, that cocaine banger trios match is what they've come for. And then you're satisfying those kind of sadistic bastards like me who love watching people like Ethan Allen and Jay Josh beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
And then so like the the Leon Cage and Will Caven, where you've got I say it all the time, I think he's one of the most underrated wrestlers in the country.
Mm-hmm.
He is technically as sound as a pound, and everything he does looks nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Leon Cage is the perfect person to put him against.
Yeah.
Because you've basically got someone who, in canon and in shoot, is a trainer and a young lad who is in his professional wrestling training. You know, everyone's training, everyone's trying to get better, but he's clearly someone who has been heavily involved in training over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So you just have this beautiful story between Caven, the bully versus the young rookie upstart,
yeah,
who was ridiculously talented.
Yeah,
I absolutely loved that match.
Yeah.
Somebody got in touch from another country over the weekend and was like, "Oh, I didn't get to see the first night of the RevPro show. What matches should I go back and watch?" And I was like, "Make sure you watch Will Caven versus Leon Cage. Like, that is one. It will be the first time you're seeing Leon Cage, and it'll be a great opportunity for you to see him. And two, like, the dynamic between the two was just beautiful." Ethan and Jay Joshua, just loved that. It was so violent.
Mm-hmm.
And what a shock. I did not have Jay Joshua down to win that match.
Interesting.
I thought that was an Ethan Allen victory for sure. And I'm really glad it wasn't, because Jay Joshua can keep losing. He can. But he shouldn't have to. And Ethan Allen he was getting to that position that Cesaro was in.
Mm.
You can't win all the time. And you're really popular and you're really good. You can't. We need to see you be just as good and just as popular in defeat. Not like because I ever thought that he could, but you can't have people all the time unless
No, of course you can't.
Unless they're going to go into the main event program and challenge for the title, which, you know, I don't see happening at the moment for him, because both the cruiserweight and the heavyweight title were busy, and his tag team partner is busy, so he's not going to be going after the tag team.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, this was just perfect. And Ethan lost absolutely nothing by losing, but he benefited a lot from winning. It's why, like, if we go back to like Golden Boy Santos, I really feel like Golden Boy needs a couple of big singles wins.
Mm-hmm.
You want him to have this role as Francisco's like heater, and for that tag team to have a threat, just let him occasionally beat somebody in a singles match. And it can be one of those matches where you look at it on the card and think, that's a bit of a random match. But actually, it's not random, because what you're doing is you're just telling us Golden Boy Santos is a killer. I think I said it last week. I'm going to say it again. I want him to murder Dynamite Lee Dawson. I want him to murder him in 3 minutes. And just look like a killer doing it. And then, you know, give it a month.
Yeah.
And then let him murder somebody else.
Yeah.
It's not, you don't need to do the Wardlow treatment where he comes out and squashes somebody every week. Like, I hate that. This is just every so often put him against somebody who can afford to lose and let him beat him, because it will just add to the whole Francisco and Santos dynamic.
Of course.
And this has added to Jay Joshua's dynamic really well in that same kind of like ethos. And then we got to the main event. Did you enjoy those two as much as I did?
I absolutely did, mate. Yeah, I would agree with everything you said. I'm just literally just sitting back, like remembering the matches and just like, oh. And Ethan Allen especially is someone that is like, take me from someone that's gone, okay, you're someone I'm not very aware of. I know that by being a tag team partner of Luke Jacobs, like, you're going to be good, right? Like, people they associate themselves with. But to me, almost felt like a bit of a lost puppy, right? And what I mean by like is he comes back and the guy he's tagged with, and like normally tag team would get back together, right? That's usually the way it happens. But like you said, he was being groomed for the top of the company. So it's like, oh, but where do we go with this? This now doesn't feel like a tag team in the way that it would if someone was just coming back. So it's like, I was curious to see where he fits in, and his whole thing is fitting in is the piss and vinegar matches, right? And I think I love, and I know we've had this discussion about belts, but I really think there is like room. I mean, I know we said that it's like weight class is how we do things here, but given something that happened on the second day, which may maybe go, are we up for some changes? Maybe. Um, I'd love to see some sort of belt, almost like a pure rules kind of, not necessarily something like that, but something that sits itself different from the cruiserweight belt, which would mean like an Ethan Allen could go against a Golden Boy Santos. Because as you were saying, both of those names, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, those two against each other, that'd be pretty tasty. And like give us some stakes behind, like to give them something that's not the main title. I'm digressing, but this is the power of what Ethan Allen does. He makes you go, who do I just want to see him get in there and just
for me, that's the sign of any good wrestler, any good wrestling match has me sitting there thinking, oh, I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to see this. Like that, because if you're not thinking that, then you obviously weren't that excited by it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm personally, I want Caven to have the cruiserweight belt for a fair bit longer.
Yeah.
He's doing really good work with it. I think it's working really nicely. I like the Leo Rush match that's coming. I want him to win that. I don't want Leo to win.
I think that's the right decision as well.
Because although I love the idea of it, I don't love the actual practicality of it, which is that we're not going to see Leo every week. We're not. And that's not going to be like a long-term thing. So I want the cruiserweight belt to be on every show.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that we've had quite a lot of absentee champions.
I was going to say the same.
So I really like the idea of Caven and then it going to Ethan Allen next.
Interesting. I kind of seen that one as Caven is the champion, and then for me the end goal is Cameron Kai. And I'm kind of wondering whether the end goal to Cameron Kai next goes via Caven goes over Leo Rush, or whether something happens and Leo Rush at some point does take the title, which then somehow, again, it's all the breadcrumb sorts of things. But I wouldn't be against.
You're pitching two completely different things, but I love your idea.
And but then as well, I would, when you said that, I was like, I wouldn't be against Ethan Allen being up either. Like, does Ethan Allen like insert himself into it and get it? And that's where Cameron eventually. I don't know, but again,
Ethan Allen versus Leo Rush. That's a match I've never thought about.
But the thing that we are definitely agreeing on here is that Caven needs to have that title a bit longer, right? He's done the lad's done really well with it. I'm gonna be upfront. Like I said, Will Caven was one of those guys who was like, okay, yeah, fine. Like genuinely, I liked on some shows, other shows I wasn't as enamored with. It's done really well this last year. Again,
it's an old adage, isn't it? For some people, the man makes the man.
Mm-hmm.
For some people, the belt makes the man. And I don't think that the belt has made Caven suddenly so much better, but I do think it's made people perceive him.
Of course, yeah.
As how good I already thought he was.
Yeah.
So yeah, I like that. And then we had the main event, Flying Bryan Brothers versus CPF, which was it's exactly what this tournament promised to be, which was, trios, carnage, great fun, lots of occasions where you got all 6 men in the ring doing all sorts of crazy ass shit.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it. Maverick Mayhew was an absolute revelation this week. I don't know what the right phrasing is, but he was the standout performer for me in CPF, and I didn't think I'd be saying that going into this weekend. He just looked so comfortable, so comfortable. As a free, they're all so bloody impressive. Danny and Joe were hitting these really spectacular high flying stuff. The stuff that Mav hit was like brutal, and I can't even think what it was. One of these moves that he did where he like kind of suplexed them up and pulled them back down, a bit like a screwdriver.
Yeah.
It was just like it made that noise. That complete involuntary guttural noise of just like, oh, like And I wasn't the only one that did it. 'Cause it was just like, holy shit, you've just killed a man.
Yeah.
Like he was absolutely class. The Bryants were brilliant. I've never seen them before. I know of them. People have recommended them to me, but I was kind of waiting for the inevitable that they'd come to RevPro. Um, I don't know them well enough that I knew who was who. So they had their names on their shorts.
Okay, yeah, nice.
I was kind of watching bits, and it was like, okay, so Nino's like the captain. He's like the oldest brother. Got that dynamic really quickly. And he kind of looked like he was like the standout one for me. But then
Yeah.
obviously he had a singles match with Leo Rush to show me that as well. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he's like necessarily a level above his brothers, but he was positioned so that I got to see more of his work.
Yeah.
But all three of them got loads and loads of shine. So you got to realise that there was like no weak link there. They were all a really impressive outfit together as a team. And I can't see us suddenly having loads of trios matches in RevPro.
No.
So these trios are going to kind of split off now back into tag teams and singles matches.
Yeah.
When you look at who the people in the teams were, that's completely doable. I like the idea of the Bryants being like CPF, where you can have interchangeable partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
Or the alternative is that Nino goes down the singles route and Leyland and Xander go down the tag route.
Yeah.
Which again, Nino versus Leo was on the Sunday, like that absolutely works.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely every team that I want to see loads of, like they just were so fresh, they were so polished, they were far better than I felt they had any right to be, given their age and experience levels.
Yeah,
it was such a bold decision putting those 6 guys in the main event together.
That was the exact word I was going to use to describe it myself, actually, because like you said, and when you
a lot of people, for a lot of young, I know like Danny Black and John Lando especially, given their age is irrelevant to how much experience they have for their age.
Mm-hmm.
But it would have been much, much safer to put like Jay Joshua versus Ethan Allen in the main event.
Of course. Yeah, it would have done, but I thought the way
like kind of, like a guaranteed this is going to work, this dynamic's going to work.
Yeah.
CPF the Brian's debuting. The more people you put in the ring, the more likely something's going to go awry.
Yeah.
Like those things, it just goes to show that Andy obviously had a lot of faith that these boys were going to deliver.
Yeah, absolutely. They did. And I'm just, as we're talking, just like scrolling through Nino Bryant's cage match. So I was like, I wonder how much. And even like you said, even as being like these young guys that they are, right? He's got a couple of pages on cage match. I'm just looking at some of these matches he's had. And like, he's got wins over people like Connor Mills, like had multiple matches against Connor Mills. And True and Lacey in singles matches as well. Matches where he's going up against win against Eddie Dennis, having matches against Mark Andrews. Like these are all people that when you go,
is the British wrestling scene, right?
Yeah,
because iron sharpens iron, and the way that young people in any you get better being challenged by people who are better than you.
Absolutely.
I always talk to my classes like I say, like it sounds cringe. I don't think it sounds as cringe when I say it to my actual kids, but it's like the way I teach is like I'm your coach. I'm the coach of the team. We're a team. If we do GCSE maths together, we're going to get grade 7 together, or we're going to get grade 8 together, whatever it is. I'm going to coach you through it.
Mm-hmm.
And to do that, I'm going to constantly show them how I do things and how I do maths and how I revise maths and prepare maths, because that's going to make them better. All these like young wrestlers, if they're only ever wrestling each other, they're not going to get any better.
Yeah, exactly.
You need to be in the ring with people that are better than you.
Yeah.
If you maybe one day they'll be so good they can surpass them.
Yeah. That's it, right? Like You've got to do that. It's the same. You bring footballers in. You put them into a different training group, and suddenly it's like this player you bring in and go, oh, they've done great over in this country. Now you're in this country. You're learning all these things. I've just seen as well that he had a match in America against a guy called Man Bun Jesus. So.
Crazy.
But you know what? To be fair, like I said, I thought it was a bold choice. I sitting there going, I'm interested why this is the last one. Can they deliver? Yeah, they could. They absolutely did. I thought it was great. And again, like I said earlier, it makes me go, now we've got a tag team. Between the three of those, we could split off into or like you said, do we have the tag team can go into that, and do you have Nino go and do that? Again, this is where we're going. We're looking at cruiserweight divisions, we're looking at the tag divisions, and we can see how they're being stocked up. And
suddenly, the number of new wrestlers that we were introduced to over the weekend, suddenly the divisions in RevPro that people have said, tag division seems a bit light on numbers.
Yeah.
Well, Leon Cage and Shane Hooker.
Oh, don't.
Cruiserweight route and tag route.
Yeah.
Bronze could go cruiserweight route, could go tag route.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there were people that we were shown this weekend that you're like, yep, I want to see them again.
Absolutely. I have 2 issues with this weekend that I need to address. So 2 issues. The team of Shane Hooker and Leon Cage combined are younger than me.
Yeah.
Made me depressed. Secondly, I realised that roughly, kind of believe what you want online with dates of birth and whatever, but roughly Joe Lando was this old when the Spanish announced team were a thing in their prime. Like when they were actually kept, I'm just like, oh, so I was probably around 18, 19 at that point. I'm like, again, thank you, Joe Lando, for making me feel.
Mate, I said it. I said it quite loudly as well. I've never felt so old at the wrestling.
Yeah,
I loved it because you constantly got to have new.
Of course, absolutely you do.
If we call it 25, if we did a list of the top professional wrestlers aged 25 and under.
Yeah.
It would be so easy to get 50 names, but it would be so hard to rank them because you think just the sheer number, because you forget, like, we're getting excited for all these wrestlers, and you're like, hold on, don't forget.
Yeah.
And then you go a little bit older, and you're like, don't forget how good Luke Jacobs is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know, it's absolutely nuts. I'm not sure how old Mills is, but I don't think he's far above.
No, I mean, I don't know. I'd probably say he strikes with someone around the 26, 27 age. But I'm also shit at guessing ages as well. I'm not going to lie. So he. Okay. Interesting.
So
yeah, crazy. You know, it's really interesting as well. Like what you said there about if you were to do this 50 names, how easy it would be. Go back to 2004, 2005, 2006. It'd be so difficult to do top 50 British wrestlers of any age because of how bereft of talent we actually were at that time. And you probably go at the time, Doug Williams and maybe someone like a James Ty or someone like that. But these names weren't up and coming in the way they are now. And it's, again, like real kind of praise for RevPro especially, right? I know they're not the only people doing it, and now you've got lots of great academies out there because you've got a lot of the great wrestlers who have come up on the scene all opening schools, right? So you've got New Wave, you've got people like Mark Andrews and all that doing stuff, Danny Luna doing all that stuff with them. You've got all these other schools around the country and whatnot, whereas before you didn't really have a lot of that, and the Portsmouth School of Wrestling was the school to go to. I know, like I said to you before, it was, I don't know if they took on the old FWA one or if this is just a different one. It was the one that I was going to go and train at. One, because it was close to me, but 2, it was the only one, apart from, I think it was NWA Hammerlock, which did like the summer camps in Kent. That was the only other one available at the time that really had any kind of notoriety around it. So, yeah, what RevPro are doing with really doing a great job at pushing through new talent, that talent coming through, then going on to do their own thing and open up schools for the rest of the ecosystem in the country. It just doesn't get talked about enough just how good.
Yeah, completely agree.
Oh,
So
right.
on the Sunday, we have that 4 teams. Who do you think's winning it?
Right, so
really, I went into Sunday saying I hoped Viva Espana or CPF won.
mm-hmm.
I could see any one of those teams winning.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people around me who thought that it was going to be Harris Damar that won it.
Interesting.
Then in the opening match, we got Viva Espana versus Harris Damar, and it didn't go 2 minutes.
So I'm going to have to rely on you for this, Dave, because I don't know how much you're aware of being in the venue, but the live feed was not playing ball, and I pretty much did not come into this until CPF versus Spectral Envoy later on. So those 3 matches.
This first match, mate, it was so fun because there was Francisco's lot won the coin toss.
Mm-hmm.
And then decided to
yeah.
And then Viva Espana got fed up of waiting for him and jumped him. And I don't think we ever got Francesca's announcement as to what the rules were going to be.
Mm-hmm.
A frantic little scrap that at first Harris Damar kind of dominated, only in the sense that we got another big old Santos lariat whilst it was down, where one wrestler takes the lariat and the other one sweeps the leg. So Damian swept the leg, which looked absolutely class. Then Viva Espana got the like a really quick comeback. So this is all within 90 seconds. And they got the pin, and it gave Francisco the fuel to go and bitch and moan because he was basically giving it the what we wanted lucha rules.
Yeah.
Or we wanted traditional tag rules. I can't remember which way. In a moment, he had this brilliant moment when he sat down on commentary, because he sat down in commentary in his ring gear and he was like, well, fine, I'll just sit here and do this then if we're out. Like, ridiculous. And he looked at Dave Bradshaw and was just like, who are you? Brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant.
I felt that from what I saw over commentary over the weekend, Dave Francisco, I mean, we know what the guy can do, right? But both parts of the weekend when he was on commentary, fantastic.
So far, I think the first time I ever heard him do commentary was Fantastica Mania last year.
Mm-hmm.
And he did a really good professional job. He was really knowledgeable. He carried that commentary for me. But he didn't get tons of personality across, which kind of fitted him well because he was like the baby contender, and it was a celebration of wrestling. There wasn't lots of good. And then now he gets to completely lean into his insane character. I love it. I can't believe how far he has come in 6 months.
So good. So good.
Now, that period, he is just like an absolute pillar of RevPro now. That the company's built around. I've got so much respect for what he's done.
Yeah, same.
So yeah, was it straight from that into CPF versus Spectral Empire?
According to the list in front of me, I've got Millie McKenzie, Chantal Jordan, and Kanji.
We had the first unannounced match, which was awesome because you've got Millie McKenzie in Coventry, her hometown. So you've got that kind of like cool reaction. And then everyone's like, okay, cool, we're going to get Millie McKenzie versus Chantal Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Millie McKenzie versus Mercedes Blaze.
Yeah.
Loads of wrestlers were clearly there for the whole weekend because in small venues you can't hide, right? There's people coming out with their friends, there's people doing merch. So you see a lot of the people that are going to be surprises. But Kanji was a surprise. And Kanji's like over wherever she goes.
Of course, yeah.
The match was exactly what you'd expect it to be. Like, we've seen Millie McKenzie versus Kanji. It was a match that I absolutely adored. We've seen Chantel Jordan versus Millie McKenzie, and that was a match I absolutely adored. I'm sure I've seen Chantel Jordan versus Kanji. Just trying to recall when and where. But like the dynamics between them was so good. It was such a good demonstration of how good this women's division is.
Yeah.
But then you have the nice little wrinkle of Mercedes Blaze coming in and taking Chantel Jordan down with a kendo stick, which meant Millie McKenzie won. So on one hand, you've got Chantel Jordan. Mercedes was after Chantel because they had beef the night before. But also, Millie won because of Mercedes, and she still hasn't answered that Cutthroat Collective invitation.
Course, yeah.
Even though in Southampton she seemed to dismiss it. So I like it. There's enough intrigue there to be like, I could still see Millie joining them, but I can also see how this leads in other directions.
Yeah.
I just desperately, and I keep saying it in the hope that it happens, I want Medusa Complex versus Cutthroat Collective at Uprising.
Yeah, you know what? I thought we were gonna get the moment. We didn't get the moment, but I thought we were gonna get the moment. But
I was really, really hoping until somebody put me out my misery by saying that Charlie Evans was working somewhere else.
Yeah, I knew she was working somewhere else, but I thought that maybe we'd get something on the Saturday that. Yeah, and that was it. I mean, I won't lie. I was looking at how long does it take to drive from Manchester to, because like you said, there was the opportunity that if they went on early enough, would there have been time for it, depending on the progress card when that match featured. By all accounts, it was a fantastic match from what I heard as well. But
Charlie had a pretty insane weekend by all accounts.
Absolutely, but I still think we get to where you suggested there. That's what I
and then
can't
the
see.
next match was Zachary Wentz versus Robbie X, which I've already said how much I enjoyed.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe when I checked Cage Match that was under 9 minutes.
Yeah, 8 minutes 29.
That for me is just absolute evidence that just because a match, so there's two things, right? A match that's 20 minutes long doesn't mean it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Also, a match that's 8 minutes long doesn't mean it's not great. This was quality. And Zachary Wentz, what an absolute trooper that lad is. Because from what I understand, he broke his nose pretty early on. Just like Oku against Stephen Allen, blood everywhere. And there was a moment where Ref Harv was like, mate, we're going to get some tissue. We're going to just sort you out.
Mm-hmm.
And Harv kind of went off to get some tissue. And you could just see Zach just being like, oh, fuck this, and just got back in the ring, carried on wrestling.
Yeah.
And it was just like, people have come here to watch. I'm here to do a thing. When he was doing merch at the halftime show, he had to put tissue all over his face because he was worried he was going to drip blood onto his 8x10s.
Oh my god!
Honestly, he was so cool about it all.
Yeah.
Really, really like the lad. I love his wrestling. I have done since my first time seeing him was when MSK joined NXT.
Got you.
I saw the Rascals in like the first iteration. I didn't watch TNA then.
Yeah.
So then I've seen his run with them since, and I think the dude's absolutely class.
I think he's great as well. I missed out on seeing him a couple of years ago at 1PW, so he was supposed to be part of like 14 tag team TLC match, and with Trey Miguel, and he didn't make his flight, or something happened. So Trey Miguel ended up doing the tag team match by himself. So you had 3 tag teams. It was Boisterous Behavior, Subculture. I'm forgetting who the other team. Chris Bay and Austin Aries. Not Austin Aries, sorry. Ace Austin. and yeah, then Trey Miguel by himself, which was an interesting wrinkle in itself. But yeah, I've been wanting to see Zachary Wentz live for a while myself.
For me, it's always like the way because when I say I've wanted to see Zachary Wentz versus Robbie X for a long time, there will be people who call bullshit on that and be like, "What, of all the wrestlers in the world, that's the match you wanted to see?" But the way my head works is, I think of all these wrestlers out of RevPro who I want to see wrestle in RevPro.
Mm-hmm.
And then for every wrestler that I want to see wrestle in RevPro, I think, so if I get to see him once, who would I put him against? So Zachary Wentz, Robbie X.
Yeah.
That's how you get there. And then you're like, it's okay, John Moxley. John Moxley is somebody I want to see in RevPro so much. So who do I want to see John Moxley against? Michael Oku.
Oh, that's not even the one I was thinking. So you just said John Moxley. I was going, Ethan Allen.
Yeah, that would be absolutely amazing. But I feel like Moxley would murder Michael Oku. But Michael Oku is so good at being murdered and still being competitive. I feel like it would be perfect. But you see what I mean? Like, I think of the wrestlers I want to see, and then I
get you.
I like to see them against. So yeah, I absolutely love that match. Love to see Zachary back. Really interesting to see what Robbie X does next. How much of a heel is he going to be? He played like the Con Mills role this weekend.
He did.
He was very much a heel in the ring in the sense that he was wrestling with attitude. Not like an absolute arsehole, not pissing off the crowd and flipping people off and stuff like that, but just wrestling with animosity, yet still doing merch and being lovely to people.
Yeah.
And that's like, but not just because the wrestling match is over now, so I'm not in character anymore.
Yeah.
Mills does it really, really well, and Robbie seems to do it really well. And for me, it's one of the things that stops Mills being Will Caven. Will Caven, I've never seen do merch ever. And I don't think he ever will do merch unless he becomes a face.
Yeah.
Even to the point where when you do see Caven anywhere at a show, he's just hood up, head down, not interested in looking at acknowledging anybody. Most miserable bastard around. But that's like, maybe that's him, maybe that's just...
They do say that the best characters are turned up, don't they?
100%, mate, 100%. But it's also like he's one of the true out and out heels, and he's always in that character. I'd like to see this with Robbie to see where he goes. I think that this is like the perfect position for him.
Yeah.
Because even with like the War Dogs are mainly dickheads towards their opponents, not just the general public. They're just, it's all about golden bodies, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, really interested with that. And then we had CPF.
Spectral Envoy. Yeah.
Again, I watched 3 CPF matches this weekend as a trio. I can't tell you what happened in any one of the 3 matches in terms of, I can't differentiate between them. I also don't think I saw anything repeated.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
Everything felt fresh. Everything felt like its own unique match. But they didn't. It's not like, we're going to wrestle one this way. It's differentiated.
Yeah.
When the Elite wrestled the Best of 7 series with Death Triangle.
Yeah.
And they made every match quite clearly different from the previous one. And that makes sense because it's on TV and it's the same. But there was none of that with CPF. It was just, you're just going to wrestle a CPF match, but it's not going to be any of the stuff that you saw in previous matches. It's just we've got so much shit that we can.
Yeah, and there's a real authenticity to that, isn't there? That, like you said, it's not doing something completely different. Going, we can do this, we can do this, we can do this. It's like, no, this feels like us. We're just not going to repeat.
The boys, they were so locked in to the tournament from a character point of view that it felt so sporting.
Yeah, I get that.
Watching them come out. I know like the wrestlers, they do, like, you've got all the tournament trumps, right? So the looking at the trophies, the like touching each other to be like, come on, we're gonna get those trophies and stuff like that. Everybody does that, right?
Yeah.
Just the way they walked around the ring, with each match they got more serious. With each match they kind of were just like, you could just see it. I saw in Danny Black probably the most out of the three. He just looked so kind of like intense at the moment that it completely sold me into this environment of being like, this is a real sport and this is a real contest and this is a real cup final. I really, really, really enjoyed that because that's how I want wrestling to be presented.
Yeah.
And as we all know about kayfabe and shoot and everything else, you want to lose yourself in the moment in the same way that after we finish recording this, I'm going to go and stick a film on, and I know that the actors aren't those people, but for 2 hours, I'm
they are
lost in the characters they're playing.
Yeah, the only difference between wrestling and acting in that sense is you're not sitting on the film set seeing how it's done. You're like, it's just happening in front of you, and like you said, that drawing you in and making you feel is what was really important. I just loved the match. Like you said, loved all of the matches. I was sitting here going, for all of them, I can't pick out a thing. I really love this or really love that, and I think, like you said, that's because of how they flow into each other, and it's the same styles, but nothing repeated. No, not like, we're seeing this spot again, we're seeing this again, we're seeing this again. It all felt just this one long continuation, and realistically, that's what you should be looking at. We come to one of the two singles matches on the night as well, and like, again, I'm just gonna probably say the same thing over and over again. Really good match. When Nino came out and like, you could just go to the and getting ready, and while the sound wasn't great, I could just start to hear the violin. I was like, oh shit. And my wife was like, what? I was like,
Nino came out and you're like, oh, wicked, cool. I'm gonna get a Nino Bryan singles match, cool. And then I didn't get time to process, okay, so who might this be against? Who's knocking about? Is it going to be JJ Gow? Is it going to be Cameron Kai? They're knocking about. And then Leo's music comes on and you're like, oh shit, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Like, this is wicked.
Yeah.
Like, Lio Rush is underrated.
He is.
And it's such a weird thing to say about someone who has had the career he's had so far. But in this match, like, he's so classically the underdog in the matches he has, right?
Yeah.
In this match, he couldn't be the underdog because that had to be Nino's dynamic. So he was the veteran against the underdog, and it worked so well.
Yeah.
Nino is someone as well where it's like, how is this lad doing stuff that I don't think I've ever seen before? Do you know what I mean? Like, I've watched a lot of wrestling in my life, and a lot of it over the last couple of years, and you're like, you feel like you've seen everything, and then he pulls something out that you're like, oh, I really like that. Or he does it in a way that's so fresh that you might have seen it before, but you don't recognise it because it just looks different.
Of course, yeah.
It looks cooler. I really, really liked him. He was probably, of all the debutants, I think Nino was he'd get my gold star.
I think so as well, yeah.
So really, really enjoyed that, and it felt like a treat because you don't know you're getting it. It was one of those moments where I felt extra smug that I was there getting to enjoy it because you're like, it's like your mum tells you that she's taking you for sweets after school, and then you find out you're going for ice cream afterwards.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know this was on the cards, and this is brilliant. Yeah, absolutely loved that. And then from there, it was the tag, right?
Yes. Yes, it was.
I forgot all about Oku versus Navarro.
Yeah.
So when the tag match finished, I was like, oh, final time now.
Yeah.
And it's probably one note that I'd make. Maybe Oku and Navarro should have gone on before that tag match.
I would say so. We're discussing it. We just mentioned it. I'm going to say I thought it was okay. I didn't think there was anything particularly like this. Was just this is an okay match for me. And I think it was one of those ones where it wasn't like your classic Michael Oku. Like obviously he was doing his thing, but it wasn't your classic Michael Oku match. It was in a position where I had to really support a final and had such a strong couple of matches before it as well. And I feel that tag gauntlet was one of the strongest matches of the weekend as well. That it just felt, from a placement perspective, I think it would have probably benefited from being moved forward that little bit more. I thought genuinely okay, but not one that I'm going to be spending my time searching out and going watching back.
I think that it was Ike Navarro's best of his 3 matches. He wrestled Luke Jacobs in
Mm-hmm.
and I enjoyed that match. I did enjoy that match. But a problem that you have when you put 2 big, hard-hitting lads together is sometimes one of them, if they hit much harder than the other one doesn't look as good.
Yeah.
I think that Luke probably outshone Ike Navarro in his first match.
Mm-hmm.
The second one with Robbie X was better because you've got a clear styles clash. But Robbie's style and the fact that he won the match meant that whilst Navarro looked like a big, strong, kind of dominant one, he didn't look like a killer because he didn't get the kill.
Yeah.
I mean, this one was the best because Oku is the best like foil for him.
Mm-hmm.
I think anybody wrestling Michael Oku looks at their best in terms of the aggressive side of their work.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think Oku is the best at selling in British wrestling.
Yeah, agreed on that.
He makes his opponent look $1 million every single time. And I thought that worked really well. I went away from this match thinking I'd like to see more Ike Navarro, even more so than I did the first couple of matches.
Interesting.
So the first time we saw Navarro, and it's not his fault, but the first time we saw Navarro, we also saw Zazaya and we also saw Barcelona Blacklist. And it was the same. It was the same with Golden Boy Santos. He wrestled that show. I didn't remember Navarro and Santos as much as I remembered Barcelona Blacklist.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So then you get the second round matches, and Santos kind of was the dominant one on that show where you're like, oh, I remember him. Like, he was really good. He comes back. So Navarro's had the most shots at it before he gets a stage where you're like, cool, let's get him in like more regularly. But maybe that was just trying to find the best opponent for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
I enjoyed the match. I did enjoy the match. I do agree with you that with the kind of show this was, with being so many, the level was so high, right?
Yeah.
The level was so high.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
something is going to be probably the match that people will remember for the shortest amount of time.
Yeah.
It's Bake Off when they do the technical and someone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and look, on any other card, this would be one of like the top matches. I'm sure it was just like you said, in a weekend that was filled with such great matches. Like this was just one that kind of felt a little bit flat for me. But
was so
exactly. Just want to touch quickly and very broadly because I know we're coming to the end of time-ish here, and we've still got the main event to speak about. But I'll give my high-level thoughts on the tag match. thought it was really, really good, really unexpected. Tag team gauntlet match. Wonder where that idea came from recently, eh? I thought it worked really well. It gave shine to, obviously, Sunshine Machine, plenty of other teams in there. I thought the whole Shah and Harry stuff was great because it had almost a comedic side to it. But it also had a bit of a sinister side to it as well, which is what I really loved about it. And that was what I was speaking about earlier with Shah. So loved the execution of that. Dave Francisco and Golden Boy getting involved as well. Thought that was really good. But for me, where it really stuck out was the involvement of the teams of women, especially Cutthroat Collective. I don't know what this means going forward, but this feels like the most un-RevPro thing they could have done across any show that we've seen this year. And I did think it was really interesting that on the day that another company were making such a big point of how they're doing intergender wrestling, and almost it was kind of a bit like, okay, bit self-congratulatory, bit pat on the back for me. I thought it was interesting that we saw this happen in RevPro before that happened in Progress. Which, you know what, if it was, I don't think necessarily Andy Quilden is someone that will go, look at what they're doing, we'll do something first. That he strikes me as very much do our own thing. However, if there was a level of that involved in it, going, you know what, we're going to do this as well. I wouldn't blame him, because there's definitely been some times I've seen Progress taking some matches that RevPro has been building up and going, come and see it here first. So I did quite like. I just thought it felt fresh and interesting, and I want to see more of it. Do we see a Cutthroat Collective team insert themselves into a tag league or something? I don't know, but I want to know more.
So personally, I don't think anything will come of the Cutthroat. It's just my feeling. I think it was a fun and exciting and unexpected treat for the people that had committed to going to the weekend of wrestling.
Yeah.
And what I really like is now they've set a precedent for you're going to want to come to the treatment. You never know what's going to happen. Like, hopefully that's a thing to kind of hang your hat on in future. I loved how it started with the Bryants, Shane Hooker, and Leon Cage, because that was like so unexpected, and it was the youth starting off the movement. Hashtag Harry stuff was so much fun, so much fun. I thought I agree with you that the women's part was probably my highlight, because it was so unexpected. Watching like Cameron say he's like chopping each other and stuff was just I never thought I'd see. And one of my favorite things, because effectively this was a casino gauntlet match, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Match. And the team came out just as the winning team got the pinfall, which is exactly the thing that can happen.
I like that. Yeah, I thought that was really good.
And I love that. I absolutely love it when companies play with the stipulations and the rules that they're imposing to create. This was hilarious. I laughed so hard that David Francisco's little gag bastards.
It made more sense knowing now what happened at the start of the show, because it's almost a callback, right? So it's like RevPro is screwing, and I can see that being the thing that comes out of this. RevPro management is screwing me.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if only there was a place where to get a grassroots movement that will support Francisco's claim of this coming up in a few weeks.
Back to Southampton.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. And then the final, mate, it was just so spectacularly good.
Yeah.
And I couldn't call it. And I could not call it. There were times when I was convinced it was going one way, convinced it was going the other way. The one thing I decided, because, you know, I've said this before, you know what I'm like at shows, I pick who I'm going to cheer for, and I cheer for that team.
Mm-hmm.
Don't switch between. And when they made the entrances, I was like, I want CPF.
Yeah.
I want CPF simply from the fact that it would be lovely for a tournament celebrating trios from the biggest British wrestling company to have a British wrestling team win it.
Yeah.
And not only that, but Barcelona Blacklist and Zazaya made up Viva España.
Yeah.
But a team and a singles wrestler. Whereas CPF have been CPF for as long as I've known them.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I really loved it. I think it was the right team to win. I think that the match was incredible. CPF for me were the stars of the weekend in terms of, if you look at, obviously some wrestlers wrestled once, some wrestlers wrestled twice, and then 6 wrestlers wrestled 3 times. CPF's total body of work was the best of all of the teams and all of the acts that were there. I just enjoyed it so much more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
And circle all the way back to the first point from the really, really cold start on Saturday to that really hot finish on Sunday.
Yeah.
RevPro have made a home for themselves in Coventry in that one weekend.
Yeah, I'd agree. Without wanting to sound like we're a Reform Party podcast here, I did want a great British trio to win because, like you said, it's like it is. RevPro for me is like the home of British wrestling, right? Like that is the flag bearer of it. You've got, of all the trios that were in the tournament, only one is an established trio, right? So you've got a British company, you've got a British established trio. Your trio that going up against in the final. Oh, well, actually, no, Spectral Envoy obviously are a trio as well. Forgot that, but aside, like the rest are all makeshift teams, and yes, they've all got great links as to why they work as teams. But CPF just felt like when you get that close to it, and I was saying as you, that's who I wanted to win at that point. Like I'd been happy for whoever, but I wanted them to win. I just thought their body of work all weekend was fantastic. They showed what they can bring, and there are also people that haven't had a lot of shine in RevPro either. Yep. So again, it now establishes a bunch of new guys as well.
Their first ever tag victory was their last match at 229.
There you go. Yeah.
It's their first tag victory in we say that all their years of wrestling, but actually they only debuted as a tag team last year.
Yeah.
They come in and they come out, and I just like the idea that this is going to be something to kind of elevate them now.
Absolutely.
I think from the tag team that I watched 2 years ago to the trio that I watched this weekend,
yeah,
I think they've come on leaps and bounds.
Yeah.
So happy for them. So happy about the weekend.
Yeah.
I hope it's going to be an annual thing. I genuinely do.
Yeah.
I know it was the first, but that was how it was marketed, wasn't it? The inaugural Trios Grand Prix suggests it's going to be more than one.
Yeah.
You said it was going to be an annual thing. I don't think.
I don't. Yeah.
First annual.
I don't. I saw inaugural, but I didn't see annual. So I would agree with you. I'm really interested to see what the matches that they come up with off the back of this is. But you know what?
Shows to uprising.
Well, Dave, you know what? This is Revolution is the place to be. And all I'm going to say is maybe potentially next week we could get some of that filled in for us.
Maybe.
That's all I'm saying right now. There might be at least a 1 in 3 chance of that happening. Dave, my friend, it's been so good to chat with you about this week. Right?
We don't normally leave it till Thursday to record, but I'll be looking forward to discussing it with you all.
It's been a fun one. Right. Until next week, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.